While the city of Tingen was dealing with madmen, evil gods, and tragic fates, the capital city of Backlund was brewing a storm of its own. Welcome back to our Lord of the Mysteries monumental deep dive series. Today, we are beginning our exhaustive chapter-by-chapter breakdown of special episodes 2 and 3, collectively known as the Marked Hunt. If you thought the city of Silver Arc was dark, just wait until you see the shadows lurking beneath the glittering chandeliers of Backlund. But first, let's establish our timeline. If you're an anime-only viewer, you might assume that this epic Backlund storyline happens after the dramatic events of Season 1. But in reality, this is happening concurrently. While Klein Moretti was in Tingen, dealing with the swindler Lenavis, the tragic Magose, and the horrifying descent of the true creator's spawn, an entirely different high-stakes game of cat and mouse was happening in the capital of capitals. This arc is an absolute masterpiece of web novel storytelling. It officially expands the Tarot Club, introduces two massive fan-favorite Beyonder characters, explains the terrifying mechanics of the Shepherd sequence, and gives us a deep dive into the socioeconomic inequalities of the Beyonder world. Today, in part 1 of this 3-part breakdown, we are going to explore chapters 107 through 153 of the original web novel. We will explore Audrey Hall's expansion into the underworld, the economic realities of the Beyonder black market, the culture shock of the Sun joining the Tarot Club, and the true horror of a magical artifact known as the Creeping Hunger. Sit back, grab a cup of high-quality Cyber Black tea, draw a crimson moon on your chest, and make sure you're subscribed. The hunt begins now. To hunt a monster in the dark, you need guides who know the shadows. This brings us to chapter 107 and the real-world introduction of two absolutely crucial characters, Forswall and Sio Derecha. Audrey Hall attends a high society literary and music salon hosted by her wealthy friend, Viscount Glaint. Glaint, who is deeply obsessed with mysticism but lacks any actual Beyonder powers himself, excitedly pulls Audrey aside to introduce her to a real Beyonder. Audrey instantly slips into her spectator state. Her green eyes sharpen, taking in every microscopic detail, every microexpression, and every physical twitch of the two women standing before her. First is Forswall. She is 23 years old, about 165 meters tall, wearing a pale yellow dress with frills, and has slightly curly brown hair. Audrey immediately notices the faint yellow stains on Fors's fingers. She's a heavy smoker. She has calluses on her fingers from holding a pen, which perfectly fits her public identity as the author of the best-selling romantic novel Stormwind Mountain Villa. But Audrey's spectator vision digs deeper. She notices that Fors's arm movements hold a clinical, refined strength, hinting that her previous job required intense physical endurance and surgical precision. For those of you who don't know the lore yet, Fors used to be a highly skilled clinical doctor. Furthermore, Fors's eyes exude a calm, rational, and slightly superior aura. It is this psychological superiority a Beyonder naturally has over ordinary, ignorant humans. Next to her is Sio Derecha. Sio is petite, barely 150 centimeters or 4'11", but she carries herself with an intense, undeniable aura of authority. She has soft facial features that make her look young, but she wears a traditional, rugged knight training suit. Her blonde hair is messy and unkempt. Despite her size when she speaks, her voice carries a supernatural weight that commands obedience. Viscount Glaint begs for proof of their powers. Fors sighs lazily, clearly annoyed by these pampered aristocrats. She walks over to a heavy, locked solid wood door, extends her hand, and phases right through it. Her body turns incorporeal, passing through the solid wood as if it were air. She opens the door from the outside and walks back in with a smug smile. Audrey is amazed but maintains her flawless aristocratic grace. Through the foundational knowledge she has gained from the Tarot Club, she instantly identifies their sequence pathways. Fors is a Sequence 9 apprentice. This is a pathway famous for avoiding traps, escaping confinement, and passing through physical obstacles. In Emperor Rosel's diaries, he specifically notes that the apprentice pathway is the originating pathway of ancient mages. Sio is a Sequence 9 arbiter. This is a pathway with outstanding combat abilities and a supernatural convincing charm that forces people to obey their authority, making them perfect judges and executioners. It is also the pathway strictly controlled by the royal families of the Lowen Kingdom. But why did these two rogue Beyonders approach Viscount Glaint? In chapter 112, the truth comes out. Sio has a friend who is currently locked up in a Backlund prison. This friend tried to mediate a dispute with a vicious gang leader who was running an illegal usury ring. When the gang leader threatened a family, Shio's friend used physical force and accidentally paralyzed the gang leader. Now, she is facing severe prison time. Force and Shio need money and aristocratic influence to get their friend a medical certificate stating she is mentally incompetent so she can avoid a heavy sentence. Audrey realizes that Force and Shio are exactly what she needs. As the daughter of Earl Hall, one of the most powerful men in the kingdom, Audrey cannot just walk into the slums or the black markets to buy magical ingredients. She would be recognized instantly, bringing danger to her family. But Force and Shio operate in the middle and lower class areas of Backlund. They have the street smarts, they know the passwords. Audrey decides to fund them, using them as her proxies in the underground world, and her first request: take her to a black market so she can buy the ingredients for her Sequence 8 telepathist potion. In Chapter 131, Force and Shio take Audrey and Viscount Glain deep into the Backlund underground. Both nobles are wearing heavy hooded robes to hide their identities and their expensive clothing. They arrive at a secret Beyonder gathering, run by a notoriously dangerous and powerful figure known only as Mr. A. The moment Audrey enters the room, her spectator abilities scream at her in absolute alarm. She looks at Mr. A, who is sitting on a single-seat sofa, his face hidden beneath a dark hood. Audrey notices his gaze wandering over the women in the room with a disgusting, lecherous intent. But worse, she realizes his vision is exceptional. He isn't just looking at them, he possesses a supernatural sight that can practically see through the fabric of their robes. Audrey feels a chill of absolute disgust and immediately categorizes Mr. A as an extremely high-threat individual. For lore enthusiasts, Mr. A is an oracle of the fanatical Aurora Order, the cult that worships the true creator. He is a terrifyingly strong mid-sequence Beyond. But the most important part of this gathering isn't the creepy host, it's the two large blackboards at the front of the room. This is the Beyonder Black Market. Audrey looks at the prices for Beyonder ingredients and potion formulas on the chalkboard, and her aristocratic mind completely short-circuits. £200, £450. Now we need to pause and talk about the economics of the Lord of the Mysteries universe. To a normal working-class citizen in the Lowen Kingdom, £450 is a lifetime of wealth. A normal factory worker makes about £20 to £30 a year. Our main protagonist, Klein Moretti, risks his life fighting monsters as a nighthawk for a starting salary of just £3 a week. But to Audrey Hall, the beloved daughter of Earl Hall, a man who owns £12 million worth of land, Audrey has a personal trust fund that pays her £15,000 to £25,000 a year just in allowances. Her total net worth is over £300,000. To her, these black market prices are absolute, literal pocket change. At this exact moment, Audrey has a hilarious, rage-filled epiphany. She remembers that back in the very first Tarot Club meeting, Alger Wilson, the hanged man, had charged her an exorbitant, sky-high price of £1,000 just for the basic Sequence 9 spectator formula. He scammed me. That bastard scammed me. She thinks to herself in outrage. She realizes that Alger took complete advantage of her status as a wealthy, sheltered noble who didn't know the market rate for Beyonder items. From this point on, Audrey loses her absolute innocence. She vows to become a much tougher, more ruthless negotiator in the Tarot Club. She will no longer be the naive piggy bank of the group. Using her pocket change, Audrey easily buys several new pages of Emperor Rosel's diary from a young man at the gathering to pay off her debt to the fool. Audrey leaves the gathering feeling like she is on top of the world. She has endless money, she has street-level connections in Force and CO, and she is about to level up her powers. But the true terrifying conflict of this arc is sparked in the very next Tarot Club meeting. This brings us to chapters 144 and 158. The Tarot Club convenes for its regular Monday afternoon meeting. But this time, Audrey, Justice, and Alger, the hanged man, are in for a massive shock. Without any prior warning, the fool casually taps the edge of the bronze table and introduces a brand new member, a young, solemn teenager whose codename is the Sun. Audrey and Alger revere the fool as an ancient, godlike existence. Therefore, they naturally assume that anyone the fool personally invites to this highly exclusive gathering must be an absolute powerhouse, a terrifying high-sequence Beyonder. They have absolutely no idea that Derek Berg is just a traumatized, malnourished teenager from the post-apocalyptic city of Silver. Audrey, eager to advance her Beyonder sequence, immediately asks the fool if he has the formula for the Sequence 8 telepathist potion. Before Klein can even formulate a master plan to obtain it, Derek casually speaks up. The telepathist potion formula. Telepathist that is followed by psyche analyst. I can get you the formula. Audrey's spectator abilities immediately notice something bizarre. Derek uses the ancient outdated term psyche analyst instead of the modern term psychiatrist. Derek, completely unaware of the political boundaries of the outside world, drops a massive lore bomb. He casually mentions that the spectator sequence pathway stemmed from the dragon race. And since his home, the city of Silver, was once ruled by the giant king Ormir, and giants and dragons are sworn enemies, the city of Silver possesses all the low sequence formulas of the dragons, as spoils of ancient wars. Alger is utterly dumbfounded. Giant King Ormir? Dragons. These are ancient myths from the Second Epoch, the Dark Epoch, a time before humanity even ruled the Earth. Who in the world is this kid? Klein, maintaining his absolute poker face behind the thick gray fog, acts as if he knew this all along to maintain his image as a deity. Klein facilitates a brilliant three-way trade. Derek will give Audrey the telepathist formula. In exchange, Klein will give Derek the Sequence 9 Bard formula, which Klein had previously extracted by divining the blood of the Eternal Blazing Sun artifact back in Tingen. And Audrey, as compensation for Klein providing the Bard formula to Derek, will owe Klein a massive sum of money and more pages of Emperor Rosel's diary. Now, how does a god accept a cash payment without breaking his divine character? Klein tells Audrey to deposit 300 gold pounds into an anonymous Backlund bank account. But to make it secure, he uses a password written in ancient Hermes. The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. Klein knows that because ancient Hermes interacts directly with the spiritual world, the moment a banker reads that password aloud to verify the account, Klein will feel the spiritual resonance all the way up in the gray fog and know the money has arrived. It is a genius, untraceable banking system. The deal is struck, but before the meeting ends, Alger Wilson drops a bombshell that changes the entire trajectory of the story. Back in the gray fog, Alger Wilson is leaning forward, speaking urgently. The camera cuts to a dramatic shadowy silhouette of a pirate standing on the bow of a storm-tossed ship, a twisted, golden-scaled glove glowing on his left hand. In chapter 146, Alger Wilson shifts the tone of the story from an exploration of magic into a high-stakes supernatural thriller. He reveals that one of the 7 great pirate admirals, the legendary and utterly ruthless Vice Admiral Hurricane Qilangos, has abandoned his pirate fleet in the Sonia Sea and secretly infiltrated the capital city of Backlund. Qilangos is a Sequence 6 wind-blessed of the Sailor Pathway. On his own, he is incredibly dangerous, capable of summoning hurricanes, flying, and manipulating weather. But what makes Qilangos a true, walking nightmare is the magical artifact he wears on his left hand, a glove known as the Creeping Hunger. As Alger describes the bizarre, varied powers of this glove driving targets crazy, entering dreams, summoning holy light, and changing appearances, Derek Berg suddenly blurts out a single word that chills the room: Shepherd. Derek explains to the horrified Tarot Club exactly what a shepherd is. The shepherd is the Sequence 5 of the pathway controlled by the fanatical evil Aurora Order. A shepherd has the terrifying absolute ability to literally devour the souls of other Beyonders into their own body. They graze these souls like a shepherd tends to a flock of sheep. By devouring a soul, the shepherd gains access to the Beyonder powers that the person had in life. The Creeping Hunger Glove is a grade-level sealed artifact made from the remains of a high-sequence shepherd who lost control and mutated. It can store up to 5 different souls at once. This means Qilangos isn't just a Sequence 6 wind-blessed. At any given moment, he can channel the soul of a nightmare to pull people into deadly dreams. He can channel the soul of a priest of light to summon holy fire. He can channel a traveler to teleport across the city. Or he can channel a faceless to completely alter his physical appearance, down to his height, his fingerprints, and his vocal cords. He is essentially a one-man Beyonder army, but there is a horrifying catch. The Creeping Hunger is a living, malevolent, cursed item. To keep it from turning on Qilangos and devouring his own soul, he must feed it the flesh, blood, and soul of a living human being every single day, or every other day, at the absolute most. Alger warns the club with absolute grimness. Qilangos is in Backlund to complete an impossible commission. He is here to assassinate a massive political figure. If he succeeds, he will be rewarded with a high-sequence artifact, making him a demigod. In Chapter 153, Audrey realizes the extreme gravity of the situation. A mass-murdering pirate who eats human souls is roaming the streets of her city, hiding in plain sight. Back in the real world, Audrey immediately summons Forz and Shio. She offers them a massive bounty, track down the missing vagrants in Backlund to find Qilangos' feeding grounds. Shio, who is desperate for the 450 pounds she needs to buy her Sequence 8 Sheriff formula, eagerly accepts the job. But Shio and Forz are about to realize that hunting a pirate admiral is not a game of clues. It is a one-way ticket to a slaughterhouse. Hunting a Sequence 6 Beyonder is not a job for Sequence 9 amateurs. Forzwal and Shio Derecha know this. In Chapter 157, realizing the sheer impossibility of randomly finding Qilangos in a massive metropolis like Backlund, they decide to consult a professional. They visit a terrace house in the Hillston borough to meet with Isengard Stanton, a highly famous and respected private detective. For those who love the deep lore of LOTM, Isengard isn't just any detective. He is practically the Sherlock Holmes of Backlund, and he possesses an intellect that borders on the supernatural. Isengard is notoriously expensive. He charges £1 gold for a mere 30-minute consultation, a brutally steep price for the financially struggling Shio, who is desperately trying to save up 450 pounds for her Sequence 8 Sheriff formula. But his mind is worth every single penny. Shio and Forz hand him a redacted dossier. They have removed Qilangos' name and any overt mentions of Beyonder powers framing the target, simply as a highly dangerous psychotic serial killer who must murder a vagrant every other day, possesses exceptional mobility in water, and has an obsession with the wind. Isengard takes his pipe from his lips, reads the dossier for 10 minutes in complete silence without missing a single detail, and proceeds to deliver an absolute masterclass in deductive reasoning. Listen to how brilliantly the author Cuttlefish writes this deduction process. First, Isengard notes the target's obsession with the wind. He deduces that the target will absolutely not stay in the heavily polluted, smog-choked East Borough, known as the capital of dust. The target will seek out cleaner air, narrowing the search to the Empress, West Hillston, or Chairwood boroughs. Second, he analyzes the target's need to kill every other day. If the target must hunt vagrants frequently, he cannot live too far from the areas with the highest homeless populations, specifically the North Borough and Backlund Bridge. If he lives too far away, the daily commute would take too much time, increasing the risk of him losing control of his psychotic urges and committing a sloppy, highly visible murder in a rich district. Third, Isengard looks at the target's exceptional mobility in water. A seasoned, high-level killer always plans an escape route. Therefore, the target will ensure his residence is within sprinting distance of a major waterway in case the authorities corner him. Isengard draws a mental map, overlapping these three incredibly strict parameters. He looks at Shio and Forz, puffs his pipe, and confidently states the target is living somewhere close to the Backlund Bridge area, specifically where it borders the clean air of the Sherwood or West boroughs, right along the banks of the Tussock River. Shio and Forz are absolutely stunned. In just 10 minutes, without using a single drop of magic or Beyonder abilities, a mortal detective has narrowed down the hiding place of one of the most dangerous pirates on the planet. It is a beautiful reminder that in Lord of the Mysteries, human intellect and logic are just as potent as supernatural powers. Armed with this profile, Forz and Shio head into the slums to set their trap. But they are about to learn that when you hunt a monster, the monster is usually hunting you. Blessed armed with a demonic artifact that devours human souls, he is a walking slaughterhouse capable of wielding 5 different Beyonder powers at once. You do not simply stumble into a pirate admiral, you have to profile him, you have to bait him. And when things go horribly wrong, you have to orchestrate a web of communication so secretive that not even the official Beyonder squads can detect it. Today, we are breaking down chapters 157 through 178 of the web novel. In chapter 178, armed with Isengard's profile, Shio and Forz decide to investigate the recent disappearances of vagrants in the slums. They know the creeping hunger needs to feed on the flesh and soul of a living human every other day. Their investigation leads them to the home of Darkholm, a ruthless gang leader who controls the beggars and thieves in the East Borough. Shio knows Darkholm is a merciless scoundrel who once broke a 13-year-old child's arm over a few stolen pennies. But he is their best lead. If anyone knows where the vagrants are disappearing to, it's him. Seo, using her arbiter instincts, immediately senses that something is horribly wrong as they approach the house. The air feels heavy, thick with the unmistakable aura of death. She draws her triangular blade. Force readies her dagger. Seo slowly pushes the unlocked door open and they step inside. What they find inside is not a crime scene, it is a butcher's cutting board. The house is littered with human remains, but there is something incredibly disturbing, almost alien about the scene. There is absolutely no smell of blood. The creeping hunger has consumed every single drop, leaving the room sterile despite the unimaginable gore. In the center of the room near the door is a pile of human bones that have been stripped completely clean of flesh, and sitting perfectly atop that pile of bones is Darkholm's severed head. His eyes are wide open, and his chubby face is still frozen in the warm, amiable smile he always wore in life. He was killed so fast and so brutally that his nervous system didn't even have time to register fear. Fors, who used to be a highly trained clinical surgeon, maintains her composure despite the visceral horror. Seo, however, is on the verge of vomiting. They realize the terrifying truth: Darkholm successfully tracked down the missing vagrants, but Qilangos noticed the investigation. The pirate admiral tracked the gang leader back to his own home and dismantled him to feed his cursed glove. But then the true psychological horror sets in. Fors suddenly freezes. Her blood runs cold. She whispers to Seo, "Wait? Could he be waiting nearby in an ambush against whoever sent Darkholm?" Across the street, Qilangos is watching them. He smiles a cruel, indifferent smile. He needs a new soul to feed his glove, and a Beyonder with the ability to teleport like a traveler or an apprentice would be an invaluable addition to his arsenal. Shio's spiritual perception flares violently. As an arbiter, her intuition for danger is absolute. She feels the literal, suffocating approach of death. Qilangos is about to strike. Fors doesn't hesitate for a single microsecond. She grabs Seo's arm and activates her most prized possession, a mystical silver bracelet with 3 dark green stones. She crushes one of the stones, injecting her spirituality into it, and screams the ancient Hermes word for door. A faint blue glow erupts around them. The physical world shatters into transparent, chaotic colors as the 2 girls are violently ripped into the spirit world. A split second later, Qilangos materializes silently at the door of the slaughterhouse, his golden-scaled glove ready to tear them apart. But the girls are gone. Fors and Seo teleport to an empty cemetery miles away, collapsing in the mud, panting for their lives. They survived, but just barely. They realize they are entirely out of their depth. Qilangos is a monster beyond their comprehension. They immediately decide to send an emergency message to Audrey Hall. The pirate admiral is active, he has fed his glove, and he knows he is being hunted. Now we get to experience the absolute tonal whiplash that makes Lord of the Mysteries so brilliant. We go straight from a gruesome, blood-soaked slum massacre to pure, unadulterated comedy. Seo and Fors need to urgently contact their employer, Audrey Hall, to warn her about Qilangos. But here lies a massive socioeconomic problem. How do a struggling street bounty hunter and a mid-tier author urgently contact the daughter of Earl Hall? They can't just knock on the front gates of the manor. The heavily armed guards would turn them away or arrest them. They can't send a normal letter. It would be intercepted and screened by the Earl's staff. This brings us to one of the most hilarious, charming, and uniquely LOTM moments in the entire novel. Audrey had previously given Seo and Fors an emergency contact method. She told them to wait outside the manor walls after lunchtime and look for her pet dog, Susie. Now, Seo and Fors just think Susie is a very well-trained hunting dog. They have absolutely no idea that Audrey accidentally fed her dog the Sequence 9 Spectator potion. Susie isn't just a dog, she is a fully fledged Beyonder with human-level intelligence and the ability to read psychological cues. As Seo and Fors watch from behind the tree, Susie trots out of the dog hole. Suddenly, a stray black male dog runs up to Susie, panting and fawning over her, trying to initiate a romantic encounter. Seo, using her arbiter abilities, looks at Susie's face. To her utter shock, she reads genuine human-like disgust and sheer annoyance in the golden retriever's eyes. Fors laughs, comparing the scene to a woman being harassed by a persistent lecher at a bar. Unable to watch the harassment continue, Seo steps out from behind the tree. Channeling her authoritative arbiter voice, she points at the black dog and commands, "My ruling is for you to leave her alone." The black dog yelps in terror and runs away with its tail between its legs. Susie the spectator dog lets out a human-like sigh of relief. Inside her head, Susie literally thinks, "That was close. I nearly said thank you to them in human language." That would have been a very awkward situation. Yes, Susie can speak now, but she knows she has to pretend to be a normal dog to protect Audrey's secrets. Shio approaches Susie, feeling utterly ridiculous. She looks at the dog and says, "Oh my goddess, why am I asking a dog so seriously? Are you Miss Audrey's messenger?" Susie simply sits down, closes her mouth, and points a paw at her own belly. Strapped to Susie's stomach, hidden in her golden fur, is a ridiculously expensive custom-made crocodile skin pouch designed by a top Backlund fashion designer. Zio and Forz are absolutely speechless. The dog's backpack literally costs more than their monthly rent. Zio carefully unzips the pouch, places their terrifying high-stakes intelligence report regarding Qilangos inside, and zips it back up. Susie gives a sharp, professional nod, turns around, and scurries back through the hole, successfully completing the greatest espionage mission in canine history. Susie delivers the message to Audrey. Reading the gruesome details of Darkholm's death, Audrey realizes the true danger Qilangos poses. She immediately enters a private prayer room and recites the incantation to the fool, passing the intelligence up to the Grey Fog. In chapter 180, Klein receives this desperate prayer above the Grey Fog. He now knows that Qilangos has infiltrated Backlund, that he is actively hunting, and that Audrey is in potential danger. Klein realizes he has to act. He cannot let his Tarot Club members die. It would ruin his image as a deity and cost him his best sources of information. But he is trapped in Tingen, and he is only a Sequence 8 clown. He absolutely cannot fight a Sequence 6 pirate admiral who wields 5 different Beyonder powers, so Klein decides to call in a favor. He needs to send an urgent, untraceable warning to Mr. Azik. His mysterious amnesiac history teacher, who Klein recently discovered, possesses godlike Beyonder powers tied to the death pathway. But how do you send an instant message in a Victorian world without cell phones or telegraphs that won't be intercepted by the church? You use ritualistic mediumship. This brings us to chapter 176, where we get a massive lore drop on how ritualistic magic works in the LOTM universe. Klein sets up an altar in his bedroom. At first, he considers using the summoning ritual taught to him by Spirit Medium daily. He recites the incantation, and the wall of his room ripples like a pool of water. A horrifying entity pushes through the plaster. It is a translucent, creepy face that has no eyes, no eyebrows, and no nose. It only possesses a massive mouth. The mouth opens, unrolling a long, blood-red tongue. And on the tip of that tongue are 5 pale, delicate human fingers, twitching and waiting for a letter. Klein looks at Daly's messenger and thinks, this is incredibly creepy, but it's too slow. He knows Daly's messenger travels through the spirit world at the speed of a normal spirit. He needs something much faster. He dismisses Daly's messenger, the face receding back into the wall. Klein reaches into his pocket and pulls out an intricate, ancient copper whistle given to him by Mr. Azik. Klein blows the copper whistle. It produces no audible sound to the human ear, but the temperature in the room instantly plummets to freezing. Klein taps his left molar, activating his spirit vision. What he sees is pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. Erupting from the solid wood of his study desk is a geyser of glistening, wet white bones. The bones spiral and interlock, rapidly assembling into a colossal 4-meter-tall skeletal monster. The monster is so massive that its horned skull literally phases through the ceiling of Klein's bedroom. Pitch black, hellish flames burn furiously inside its empty eye sockets. Klein looks up at this abyssal monstrosity standing in his humble, middle-class bedroom. He compares it to Daly's creepy little mouth monster and has a profound realization regarding Mr. Azik's true power level in the Beyonder world. He thinks one is a human baby, the other is an adult giant. Mr. Azik must be a high-sequence Beyonder. Trying his absolute hardest not to show fear, Klein casually tosses the folded letter toward the monster. The giant skeletal hand sweeps down, catching the letter with terrifying speed and precision. Klein blows the whistle again, and the monster instantly crumbles into a pile of bones that melt away into the floorboards, vanishing without a trace. The hitman has been called. The message is on its way. The trap for Vice Admiral Hurricane Qilangos is officially set. In Chapter 188, the legendary pirate, Vice Admiral Hurricane Qilangos, realizes that his time in Backlund is rapidly running out, thanks to the espionage of Forz and Shio. The mandated punishers, the Nighthawks, and the military are all tightening their nets around the city. Qilangos knows he has been exposed. He knows they are hunting him, but Qilangos doesn't run. He is one of the 7 great pirate admirals for a reason. He decides to execute his impossible assassination plan immediately. His target is Duke Pallas Negan. For context on why this is so insane, Duke Negan is the main financial and political supporter of the Conservative Party. He personally owns over £12 million worth of land. He is arguably the wealthiest and most politically powerful aristocrat in the entire Lowen Kingdom outside of the royal family itself. And tonight he is hosting a massive, highly secure ball in his Empress Borough mansion. So, how does a wanted, internationally recognized pirate infiltrate a fortress guarded by elite beyonders and political bodyguards? He uses the true power of the creeping hunger. Before the ball, Qilangos intercepts a minor, debt-ridden noble named Baron Gramir. He snaps the Baron's neck, hides the body in a wardrobe, and uses his cursed glove to devour the man's soul. By grazing Gramir's soul, Qilangos gains access to the powers of a Sequence 6 Faceless, a pathway we will learn much more about in Season 2. The Faceless ability allows Qilangos to physically transform his face, his height, his fingerprints, his body mass, and even his vocal cords to perfectly mimic the dead Baron. It is not an illusion, it is a complete physical restructuring. Disguised flawlessly, he walks right through the front doors of the mansion. The Beyonder security guards check his invitation, they check his face, they scan him for magical illusions. Everything passes because physically he is Baron Gramir. In chapter 190, Qilangos stands on the winding second-floor corridor, holding a glass of blood-red Ormir wine, looking down at Duke Negan. He is perfectly disguised. He is ready to strike. He mentally notes that Duke Negan is a key political figure for the Church of Storms, meaning there is definitely a powerful Beyonder from the church protecting him in secret. A man in a black tuxedo stands next to the Duke, expressionless and vigilant. Qilangos marks him as the primary obstacle, but Qilangos doesn't care. He is arrogant, he is powerful. He is ready to claim his bounty and ascend to the level of the pirate kings. But Qilangos makes one fatal, catastrophic mistake. In a room filled with hundreds of people, he walks past a 17-year-old blonde girl standing quietly by the balcony curtains. He walks past Audrey Hall. Audrey has completely digested her Sequence 9 spectator potion. Her powers of psychological and physical observation border on the supernatural. She doesn't just look at people, she deconstructs them down to their very psychological atoms. As Baron Gramir walks past her and greets her flawlessly, Audrey's mind goes into overdrive. In a matter of seconds, she completely dissects the man before her, noticing 3 massive, glaring anomalies that no normal human could ever catch. Clue number 1, the eyes. The real Baron Gramir is a timid, debt-ridden man. When he sees a beautiful woman of higher social standing like the daughter of Earl Hall, he avoids direct eye contact, acts submissive, and nervously steals glances. This man looks at the women in the room with the calm, dead, indifferent eyes of a frozen lake. He has no lust, he has no fear, he has the eyes of an apex predator scanning a herd of sheep. Clue number 2, the posture. The real Gramir slouches slightly, a physical manifestation of a man beaten down by immense financial pressure and a deep inferiority complex. This man's muscles are perfectly coiled under his suit. He walks with the subtle, arrogant, shifting balance of a pirate who is used to standing firmly on the wet deck of a rocking ship in a violent storm. His center of gravity is completely different. Clue number 3, the fragrance. This is the absolute nail in the coffin. The detail that proves Audrey's absolute genius. Audrey smells his perfume and realizes the scent is in the middle note of the amber cologne fragrance. A real, proper noble applies their cologne hours before a ball so that the strong, pungent scent fades, leaving only the subtle, elegant end note by the time they arrive. This man applied the cologne right before walking into the building. Why? Because he used it to cover up the metallic, coppery smell of the real Baron Gramir's freshly spilled blood. Audrey's mind clicks like a locked vault opening. This is not Baron Gramir. This is Vice Admiral Hurricane Qilangos, terrified but maintaining her flawless, elegant, aristocratic smile so the pirate doesn't realize she knows. Audrey casually walks over to her father, Earl Hall. She pulls him into a quiet corner and whispers her terrifying deductions. Earl Hall, trusting his daughter's genius implicitly, instantly realizes the immense danger and moves to silently alert the Duke's security. Audrey then quickly excuses herself to a private prayer room, locks the door, and desperately prays to the fool. She recites the ancient Hermes incantation, passing the intelligence up to the gray fog. The trap is sprung. Qilangos has been made. Qilangos is a veteran of the seas. He has survived countless battles. He instantly senses the minute shift in the atmosphere. The guards are moving differently. The nobles are being subtly ushered away from the center of the room. He knows he has been exposed. But he is a pirate admiral. He doesn't run away. He attacks. With a flick of his wrist, Qilangos drops the faceless disguise and channels his own wind-blessed powers. He summons a violent, invisible blade of wind that snaps the thick metal chain holding the massive, multi-ton crystal chandelier directly above the dance floor. The chandelier plummets, crashing into the marble floor, plunging the room into darkness and sending lethal shards of glass flying everywhere like shrapnel. In the utter chaos, Qilangos leaps from the balcony. Wrapped in a spiraling hurricane of his own creation, he launches himself directly at Duke Negan. His fist, aimed straight at the Duke's heart, moves like a cannonball. But Duke Negan doesn't flinch. He doesn't run. He stands his ground like an immovable mountain, looking down at the assassin with absolute terrifying confidence. The Duke raises his right hand and speaks a single word in ancient Hermes: imprison. Instantly, the air around Qilangos turns into a solid block of transparent, sticky force. He is trapped like an insect in amber. Duke Negan isn't just a fat, wealthy politician. He is a high-level beyonder of the Arbiter Pathway. For those who don't know the deep lore, the Arbiter Pathway relies on the absolute power of rules and order. When a high-sequence Arbiter speaks, their words literally become the physical law of reality. They do not use fire or water, they use the law. The Duke steps forward, his voice booming with supernatural, undeniable authority. Flog, crack, crack, invisible, shapeless whips violently lacerate Qilangos' body out of thin air. His elegant clothes are torn to shreds, and his skin is ripped open, revealing the white bone underneath. Then the Duke leans forward, clenches his fist, and screams the ultimate, absolute judgment: death. He throws a punch that carries the conceptual weight of an unavoidable execution. The concussive force slams into Qilangos, and the pirate's head literally shatters into pieces. But the headless body vanishes. It was an illusion. In the split second before the fatal strike landed, Qilangos had used the creeping hunger to switch to a Sequence 7 Nightmare Soul. He had pulled the Duke and the guards into a brief, terrifying dream. Using the momentary distraction of the shattering dream, Qilangos materializes behind the Duke. He punches his wind-wrapped fist straight through the Duke's chest, but the Duke's body turns transparent. He had used a magical substitute artifact to escape the fatal blow just in time. Realizing that the assassination has failed, his cover is blown, and that high-level reinforcements are seconds away. Qilangos summons a massive gale of wind. He blasts through the mansion's stained glass windows, shattering them outward, and flies into the night sky, escaping toward the Backlund municipal gardens. In chapters 191 and 192, Qilangos touches down near the Tussock River. He thinks he has won. He survived an ambush by a high-sequence noble, and now he is in the dark where he excels. The pursuit in the sky is chaotic. The spellsinger of God, Ace Snake, a literal Sequence 4 demigod of the Church of Storms, is flying through the air trying to track him. But Qilangos' wind powers make him impossible to pin down. Qilangos prepares to use the creeping hunger to change his face again and vanish into the population of 5 million people in Backlund. He is confident, he is arrogant, but then the world stops. Qilangos' vision blurs. The world around him saturates into horrifying impressionistic colors. He finds himself frozen in mid-air. Beneath him, the black water of the river rises and thousands of pale dead white hands reach out from the depths, grabbing desperately at his boots. He looks up. Standing in front of him is a 4-meter-tall gigantic humanoid skeleton. Pitch black, hellish flames burn in its eye sockets. Qilangos doesn't panic, he is a pirate admiral. He activates the creeping hunger. The glove turns pure gold. He uses the power of a Sequence 5 Priest of Light. A massive pillar of holy burning sunlight crashes down from the sky, striking the giant skeleton and incinerating it into ash. The holy light purifies the dead hands grabbing his feet. Qilangos smirks, thinking he has broken the ambush, but his smirk freezes. To his left, another 4-meter-tall skeleton steps out of the darkness. then another to his right, then another behind him. 1, 2, 10, 50. More than 100 giant skeletons, all burning with pitch-black flames, surround the pirate admiral. Alger Wilson, the hanged man, arrives at the lake just in time to witness the end. He watches as Qilangos, one of the most feared pirates in the world, a man who just fought a duke and escaped a demigod, suddenly stops moving entirely. Qilangos' face begins to rot at a terrifying speed. Viscous yellow-green fluid oozes from his skin. His flesh literally peels off his skull chunk by chunk, falling wetly onto the grass. He doesn't even have time to scream. The powers of the creeping hunger are utterly useless against this supreme suppression. In less than 20 seconds, Vice Admiral Hurricane Qilangos is reduced to a pile of rotting meat and white bone. His empty eyeballs roll out of their sockets and onto the dirt. The legendary creeping hunger falls uselessly into the mud. Alger is paralyzed with absolute mind-shattering terror. He realizes that a beyonder of unimaginable, godlike power just one-shot a pirate admiral without even showing their face. And in Alger's mind, there is only one explanation. He thinks back to the Tarot Club meeting. He thinks of the exact moment Audrey prayed to the Fool to relay the information. He thinks of the Fool's casual, indifferent tone. Mr. Fool's blessed. Alger realizes in horror the Fool sent his blessed to Backlund, and he killed Qilangos in seconds. Alger's loyalty to the Fool is instantly cemented in pure, unadulterated fear. He believes Klein commands an army of demigod assassins who can be deployed anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. But we, the readers, know the hilarious and awesome truth. It wasn't a blessed of the Fool, it was Mr. Azik, Klein's mild-mannered amnesiac history teacher from Tingen University. Klein had sent Azik a letter warning him about the creeping hunger being in Backlund. Azik, whose lost memories are deeply tied to the ancient death pathway, specifically he is a Sequence 4 undying demigod, intercepted the pirate and annihilated him effortlessly. Because the creeping hunger uses the souls of the dead, it was completely, fundamentally, and utterly suppressed by a high sequence beyonder of the death pathway. The god of death rules all souls. Klein accidentally used a demigod-level powerhouse as his personal hitman, all while sitting in his pajamas back in Tingen. The aftermath of this assassination is both epic and incredibly funny, perfectly showcasing the unique, contrasting tone of Lord of the Mysteries. Because Qilangos is dead, and Audrey provided the crucial intelligence that exposed his disguise, Earl Hall manages to secure the international bounty for his daughter in secret. Audrey is awarded a staggering 40,000 pounds from the combined bounties of the Lowen Kingdom, the Intis Republic, and the Fasak Empire, plus a highly profitable rubber tree plantation in Desi Bay. Audrey uses a fraction of this massive wealth to secretly buy the telepathist ingredients, solidifying her path to becoming a Sequence 8 Beyonder. She feels like a true mastermind, orchestrating the death of a pirate king from the safety of her parlor room. She is absolutely thrilled to be a member of the Tarot Club. Meanwhile, Alger Wilson returns to his ship, absolutely terrified of the Fool. He resolves to never ever cross the mysterious entity above the gray fog, believing Klein to be an ancient god who plays with the lives of pirate admirals for fun. He is now completely devoted to the Tarot Club out of sheer self-preservation. And what about Klein, the man who orchestrated this entire chain of events? The omnipotent Fool who commands demigods? In chapter 194, Klein is reading the morning newspaper in Tingen. He reads the headline, "Pirate Qilangos shot dead by Duke's bodyguard in Backlund." Klein reads further and realizes the bounty for Qilangos was £10,000 just from the Lowen Kingdom alone. Klein sits in his room, completely broke, literally counting copper pennies. He is stressing over how he is going to afford a new, cheap suit because his old one got ruined in a fight with a low-level cultist. He is agonizing over carriage rental fees. He is hoping his Nighthawk captain, Dunn Smith, will approve his expense claims for a few measly shillings. He literally weeps internally, thinking, "I wouldn't have minded if you gave me £10. It is the perfect, beautiful irony of Lord of the Mysteries. Klein is worshipped by his club members as an omnipotent deity who can assassinate pirate admirals on a whim, but in reality, he is a broke, overworked civil servant who just wants to save enough money to buy his sister a new dress and have a decent meal of oxtail soup. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the epic conclusion of The Marked Hunt and the first incredible batch of Lord of the Mysteries special episodes. These episodes perfectly set the stage for the massive scope of Season 2. The Tarot Club has expanded. The terrifying power of the Aurora Order and the true reality-bending capabilities of demigods have been revealed. The world is so much larger than Tingen City, and Klein has fully digested his seer potion, ready to advance to Sequence 8, Clown. But the peace in Tingen won't last long. The shadows of the Antigonus family notebook are still looming, and a mastermind with a quill that writes destiny is watching from the dark. If you loved this massive 3-part deep dive and want me to continue covering the novel arcs before Season 2 officially drops, you have to let me know. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Which power would you rather have? Audrey's mind-reading spectator abilities, Forza's wall-facing apprentice magic, or the terrifying soul-stealing power of the creeping hunger? Thank you so much for watching. May the goddess bless you, praise the fool, and I will see you in the gray fog.